one battle after another. It's a 2025 American dark comedy action thriller produced, written, and directed by the one and only Paul Thomas Anderson. Inspired apparently by a 1990 novel called Vineland by Thomas Pynchon. Sorry if I butchered that name, probably did.
I think it's Pynchon is the name. But...
Pynchon?
Yeah.
How is that Pynchon? P-Y-N... Okay, well...
Well, why is turn into eyes sometimes?
Your language is fucking bullshit. It stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro, Regina Hall, Teyana Taylor, and Chase Infiniti in her debut movie role. And it follows an ex-revolutionary, DiCaprio, who must rescue his daughter from a corrupt military official. All right, Tyler, what did you think of this movie?
I suppose I was quite excited for this one. Did get a lot of hype, and people, I'd already heard people were saying this was potentially going to be the best film of the year. So I had very high expectations, and I saw the trailer a while ago, and the trailer doesn't give you much of a feel. Have you seen the trailer? Does it? I feel like it doesn't give you much of a feel of what the movie's going to be, or kind of what the tone is, or.
Yeah, I went in mostly blind and actually a bit skeptical because of those trailers and those posters that I saw, because they made the film feel like it wasn't really going to be like a PTA movie, if you know my meaning. Like, it was a bunch of posters with DiCaprio looking tough, holding a gun, and Teyana Taylor holding a gun, and Chase Infiniti holding a gun, and it felt atypical for Anderson's filmography, in my opinion. I don't know. It felt it was going to be this action thriller movie. And I was still interested because I like Anderson, I like DiCaprio, obviously, and I really enjoyed like all PTA's movies that I've seen. I really liked Licorice Pizza, which is the latest movie he did before this one. But it felt like they were trying to market the movie as something else from what it actually was. And it makes sense.
It had a somewhat Tarantino-esque kind
Yeah.
of feel about it, and I felt, to be honest, like when after watching the movie, it kind of had those in moments. It had that kind of vibe about it as well with some of the characters.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
like
the
the
nuns.
the pacing,
No spoilers,
totally. And I've not seen that many Paul Thomas Anderson films, but I do like everything I've seen. I really like his work, and this feels atypical from the things I've seen. So are you saying that it's not? This feels very much like a Paul Thomas Anderson film.
I mean, again, the movie feels like you go in expecting. I don't know what I was expecting, but like 5 minutes in, I felt like the movie was undeniably and unmistakably PTA. Like, the style, the dialogue, it felt unique in a way. It's a pretty unique movie, but like that vibe that I was hoping it would have, it had, like, in the dialogue, in everything. So yeah, I think it is pretty much very PTA, if you will. But yeah, so you were excited. I guess you're using the past tense because you're not excited anymore.
I
Like,
was, yeah. In the end, I was a bit disappointed with the film overall. It had some high highs, but it just didn't do it for me in the end. And I thought it was
all
kind
right.
of a bit long-winded. It got really bogged down in some bits. So I kind of don't really. I thought the kind of overall message when the film ended was kind of a bit bizarre. I didn't really kind of see what they were trying to go for in the
Okay.
end. And just, yeah, I especially at the beginning, the first 10, 15, 20 minutes, before the time jump.
Yeah.
I
The
thought,
first act.
yeah, I thought that that had me very worried for the rest of the film. And because I thought it had a very naive perspective on what it was trying to say with these revolutionaries in this world. And then it did get a bit more nuanced, I think, once it picked up the story later on and we saw the repercussions of the French 95's actions.
75.
French 75, right? But then, yeah, the film follows DiCaprio basically, hunting down, looking for his daughter, and that when it kicked into gear, and the Lieutenant Lockjaw or Colonel Lockjaw or whatever his name is
Sean
hunting.
Penn's
Yeah,
character, it's insane.
is hunting Willa or Willow. That's when
Willa, yeah.
that's when the movie kind of kicked into gear, and it kind of sustained like a decent level for a while, but then I thought it kind of dropped off quite quickly after that as well. So I thought it was just okay, brilliantly made, like some really well executed sequences.
It's shot in VistaVision. It's
Oh, there you go.
one of very few recent movies shot with this kind of old technology. I'm guessing like they actually thank Giovanni Ribisi in the
Oh,
credits.
I
You know,
saw
the
that.
actor,
Yeah.
because he is like a collector and he fixes old cameras, and he had, I guess, one of these VistaVision's camera that he gave the production to make the movie. So yeah,
It looks fantastic, and it's got there's obviously great actors in here, and they all do a good job. But yeah, I just thought it was very meandering, and in the end, it was just all right.
all right. Okay, I strongly disagree with that. I think without getting into too much of the story and the characters just yet, but and we'll keep we'll keep this brief. I swear, we'll try at least. But I actually adored this film, and it was one of the best cinema experiences of the year for me. And it was a pretty good year so far for movies in theaters. I felt it was very surprising, and it was very unique and entertaining, and also rich in terms of the themes and the subjects it decides to tackle. And as you said, like it starts off, trying to say something, and you're not quite sure what that is, but then it becomes, I think, pretty nuanced in what it's saying.
Well,
And
it's like
even
trying to say like terrorism is good at the beginning of the movie, and I was like, oh
I
no, here we
mean,
go.
more than terrorism itself, it's like kind of like more of a um, social disobedience, I guess. Like they are fighting for what they think is right, and it's quite interesting how the PTA decides to do this, because it's kind of like an alternate universe, like this kind of like rebel forces, I guess. They don't really exist in our time, and not even in the past
I
of like
mean,
16 years ago.
well,
Like you don't
obviously
really have.
this is heightened to a degree, but like this film, I think it quite closely relates to some things that happen in real life. Obviously,
Oh yeah, absolutely. But
but
like
in
I
terms of like
think.
the film, I think there was like a shooting, like an attack on some ice facility in America, like
Okay.
just recently before this film came out, with a guy who sort of was attacking the facility for like pro-immigration kind of rhetoric. That was the reason he shot up this place. It's very like attuned to what's going on. Obviously, it's massively exaggerated in terms of the size and organizational level of what they're doing. Like DiCaprio is like saying he has mortars at some point that he can fire into this like detention center. So yeah, it's obviously heightened, but I don't think it's like that fantastical, to be fair.
No, no, no. I'm not saying it's fantastical. It is heightened. It is a bit satirical, and it's poking fun and making fun of kind of like both sides in a way. But what I meant is the type of like guerrilla that it's like trying to portray. I don't know. It reminded me of something that was happening, specifically like talking about like personal kind of like, I'm Italian, and like this kind of stuff usually like was all over the news like in the 70s and like early 80s,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
that kind of stuff, like bombing, like
Well,
attacking.
the French, what did you call that? The French 75 Antifa on
Yeah.
steroids, basically.
Yeah, they
You know.
are. Yeah, but also, like you see a character like Teyana Taylor. She's not just doing it because she thinks it's right. She's doing it because she gets something. She gets off on it. Like she kind of likes the
Oh
vibe of being
yeah,
this
and
this terrorist person.
that's totally very realistic as well.
Yeah,
I've worked at a lot of protests like that, and there are
yeah.
many people who go to these things that just
Thinking they are the
enjoy
hero.
it.
Yeah,
Well, not just thinking they're the hero, but they love the fighting the cops and throwing the petrol bombs and all that kind of shit. Like, people just do it for the chaos of it sometimes, and she's kind of
Yeah.
that character, like you said. And it's good because the film portrays her as such a hero at the beginning, and everybody's fawning over her. Sean
And she's
Penn's
the worst.
she's the worst piece of shit, and Sean Penn loves her too, and DiCaprio loves her too. And I was like, oh my god, this character's going to be so annoying. And then the film
Oh,
tells you that she's a piece of shit, and I'm like, oh, okay, you've got me back on board here.
how happy you were when we skipped 16 years and she's not in the movie anymore. But I think
I don't
that's
know
the
how many
point with
times
that
I
character.
don't know how many more times. Yeah, oh, totally. I don't know how many more times I could see her shove Sean Penn's gun up his own ass. To be honest.
Yeah, like you mentioned you not liking the beginning of the movie and kind of like getting back on board once the actual plot starts with DiCaprio and his daughter Willa kind of like
Yeah.
escaping this crazy man. And I think that speaks to something that is really true about this movie, which is, in my opinion, in what my experience with it was, it's that it keeps getting better and better as it goes along. Like, I think the ending is actually the best part of the film, which it's so rare. Recently, like like that the climax of the film is the best part, the most memorable
Are you
part.
saying what the
Um,
climax is the best bit or the resolution? Because
I mean, like, yeah, with
I enjoyed the climax, but I thought the resolution was bad for the characters involved.
okay, I'm talking specifically about the like resolution to the like the I mean, let's go into spoilers, who cares? But
Yeah, yeah.
we already kind of spoiled a bit. But great movie in my opinion, not so great in his opinion, but we'll get into the details. But so I'm speaking about the chasing, like the whole sequence from when Willa gets in the car with Sean Penn with Lockjaw, when DiCaprio is trying to snipe them from the distance, and he can't do it because of course he can't, because he doesn't do anything for the whole film. Like that whole sequence from when Lockjaw leaves Willa with Avanti, that like Native American kind of like bounty hunter kind of person. Like the central part focusing on DiCaprio's quest, I thought was absolutely riveting and funny and thrilling, and just I thought it was iconic in a way. And but the ending, I thought that the whole sequence, when from the moment they all get into the car, Willa is in her car, the white supremacist guy is in his car chasing her, after killing, well, not killing, getting Lockjaw. And then you have DiCaprio on this stolen car that doesn't really work. And they're going on these roads, like winding roads with ups and downs. I thought, like, when I was watching this, honestly, like, I caught myself thinking, I am witnessing a sin, like, that will be talked about endlessly. Like this is something that is like truly unique. I don't know. It just like it worked for me because it was
Yeah,
so
hey,
simple.
fair
It
enough.
was it was so simple, and the music was fantastic, and just like just the way it was put together, it reminded me of the Mexican standoff at the end of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, or like the opening
Jesus,
of Inglorious Bastards.
you need to settle yourself down, Christ.
I'm not saying it's on that level. I'm saying it reminded me
Using words
of,
like iconic and good, bad, the ugly.
like, when you first watched the final chase in Mad Max Fury Road, you thought, oh my God, I've never seen something like this. I've never seen something so cool done this way, and in a very different way, but in a way, in kind of a similar way. That was my experience with this scene, because I was like, oh, it's so simple. It's just three people on a straight road, and just the music and the way it's edited and the way this road kind of like winds up and down, it just creates this tension that it's rising and it's rising, and the tension has been rising steadily throughout the second act. even though the movie is quite funny, and you never really think, oh, Willa is going to die. You know that at some point they will be reunited, but it feels like this moment is just like the culmination of, like, because it's a very long movie as well, of this entire thing. And in my opinion, it really worked. I really felt like it was a great combination of direction and immaculate cinematography and pristine acting and great music. And it's simple, like, again, it's Psycho. Norman Bates is his own mother, or like that kind of simplicity that it's kind of lost in movies today. Like, and it's, you immediately get it. I don't know. I really love that.
I agree. I
Um,
agree with most of what you're saying in terms of directing and cinematography and the music. All of that stuff was really good, and I was kind of pulled out of the tension in the last sort of act of the movie. But that exactly what you described really worked for me um when DiCaprio realizes he's being hunted down and Willa's been taken, and then he's with Del Toro, and like they're running through the city, and as the MKU guys are like coming down on them, and he keeps like stopping off to try and charge his phone, and then Benicio del
it's
Toro
so good.
and Del Toro is just like, nope, get up, we're not stopping here, and he just every time they go to different places, he stops down to try and charge his phone. Like I thought that bit was really working well, and
It was super cool. I loved it.
yeah, it kind of almost reminded me of Birdman, that like
Yeah,
that
actually, they're
sequence.
very frantic, and the character was trying to do something but can't for some
Yeah,
reason. Yeah,
and
yeah.
and it had like the score was a little bit jazzy sounding as well, like so it was yeah, which and I love Birdman, so that was a good reference to have, obviously. But yeah, that it didn't work for me in the same way at the end, and I don't know whether I just because I was out of the movie by then. Like I thought Penn's character was silly,
I
like
love this character.
he's just too
Uh,
over the top, man. I didn't really understand his motivations until you sort of he basically he literally tells you at the end when he says you're worth. He tells Willow, I'd rather sacrifice you than sacrifice my membership at the Christmas club or whatever it's called.
the Christmas Adventurers is just like this joke, white supremacy kind of cult, I guess.
Yeah, kind of like a take on like Bohemian Grove or something like that.
Yeah. The whole Christmas Adventurers is kind of like, it's a satire, it's very exaggerated, it's the least realistic, even though, real people like this do exist, unfortunately, but like, it's the least realistic of the elements of the film. It's just there to be like, oh, look at these assholes, how stupid and entitled and crazy they are. But and also to give this ticking clock to Lockjaw as well, like, because we understand his motivation better now that we know that these people are so fucking crazy that they would kill him just because he has a mixed race daughter. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
that bit I thought totally unnecessary scene at the end where he's like, why not just have him get shot in the face and die at that bit rather
Because it's
than
so much funnier that everything that he did and everything that he wanted, and it led up to just an empty off corner office where he fucking dies because they release some gas, and he just dies in this stupid pose with his stupid face. And that's all that he got from this desire that he had inside that made him refuse his own daughter and made him do all these horrible things. I don't know, I thought it really worked, and the performance as well, his mannerism, the way his face crumples up sometimes, the way he walks and carries himself. I thought it was really funny. And then, like, and I agree that, like, in the first few scenes he was in, like, and especially the scenes at the beginning with Teyana Taylor, uh, I was kind of disliking the performance. I was like, he's doing too much. I don't get it.
yeah,
But
it's
at
overly
some point,
weird.
at some point, it clicked for me, and I got him, and I thought, okay, this makes sense that this guy is intense. So
I
I don't know.
liked the voice he was doing in some parts of the performance because I thought it was really weird and unique, like the way he was portraying this guy. But the character itself didn't do it for me as like the main villain. And like I found myself like, I don't know, it seemed like he was conflicted with how he felt about what was her name, Peridia and the
Perfidia.
Perfidia
Perfidia Beverly Hills. Love these ridiculous names, by the way.
and and the daughter, and but then it obviously, that's not the case. That's not how he feels, and he seems to, this guy, this like army colonel, seems to have complete impunity to like raid this whole town with like the whole army basically for his own intentions. Yeah, he does say, pretend, let's make up some drugs and tacos story. But
Yeah.
it's the fact that he's doing this almost with like complete impunity. It's like, well, this guy is seriously powerful, and I think that's one of the main things the film missed for me, was some world building, because we never see how, like, we get some references to be like, oh, this fascist government or oppressive government, but we never see them doing anything. I feel like we need to see how heinous it is. There should be some world building, somewhere at the beginning of the film, so that maybe we do side a bit more with the, revolutionary types, and they're bombing people but because at the moment we don't really see how evil and messed up the world is.
I think they give you enough. I do agree that, especially on a first watch, I was left confused at like what Bactan Cross was, which is the city like the movie is set in, and you kind of get it as you go along. Like it's this sanctuary city. There's a bunch of like illegal immigrants and refugees, and just like undesirables for a certain class of people in the US. And yeah, I agree with you, especially because the movie is clearly set in an alternate kind of timeline of some kind, where this kind of underground resistance still exists in this way, in this fashion, with these like old school codes. They give you enough, and I guess the movie sometimes has a very frantic pace, because I'm guessing it was even longer than it actually is, and then the producers went to PTA and on their knees begged for him to remove like to shave off like 30 minutes of movie, because it was too long and no one was gonna watch a 4 hour a 4 hour PTA movie, even if it had DiCaprio in it. So
Unfortunately, not many people are watching the 2.5 hour version of it either, which is, I think it probably deserves more
it
eyes
does
on it
deserve
than it
more.
than it does,
Yeah.
because it is a good film with a good cast.
I mean, maybe award season, with some accolades, people will rediscover it and maybe give it a chance on streaming. Because I think it deserves it. It's not a perfect movie, and you've pointed to a few things that I agree with you are not, like they make it like less of a masterpiece. But I do think that there's a bunch of stuff here that is really really good.
Well, so I
Definitely
wanna
the
I wanna I wanna ask you about, because you said, you loved the ending, and I mentioned earlier on that I had a problem with sort of the message that it was portraying at the end.
yeah.
So, Willa, her at the end of the film, Willa and DiCaprio are sort of back together again, and she goes off to Oakland to fight against the MKU and basically be like her mother again, which I kind of
Yeah.
thought was like, oh, right, but isn't her mother a bad person? Was that not the point of the earlier of the movie?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the movie wants you to think that Perfidia was a wholly bad person. It was a complicated person who did very bad things, and also kind of like went through a lot. Like the movie doesn't bring that much attention to it, but and she doesn't either. Like she doesn't want people to notice or know this, but like she kind of gets raped at the beginning of the movie when she agrees to have sex with Lockjaw, and Willa is the result of that relationship, that intercourse. So the fact that she later can't look at her daughter and she doesn't want to have anything to do with her daughter might have something to do with the fact that she doesn't see that relationship as valid, and she can't process that emotion and that feeling, because she's not a very emotionally intelligent person. So like she does very bad things, and you are supposed to kind of hate her at the beginning, I suppose, because she leaves like just like that, and then gets captured
Oh, and she
fucking,
kills an innocent
and she
security
kills
guard,
and she kills a security guard,
which
which
is
also makes
which
her
is
horrible,
quite brushed over. I thought, especially like that's the first time you finally see some actual repercussions for
which I loved, by the
their
way.
oh,
That's
completely.
when the movie started working for me,
Yeah,
by the way.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
Because
yeah.
before, up until that point, I was like, "Oh my god, I think I'm gonna hate this film,"
Yeah,
and
because
I was like,
it's
"Finally," because it's
yeah,
not nuanced just to portray like a group of like. There's gonna be casualties. There's gonna be like things that will happen
yeah,
that
that
shouldn't.
scene in the bank, it starts off like it's a Tarantino movie when
Yes,
in Pulp
yeah.
Fiction she gets on the tables and starts threatening everyone, and she gets a little speech, Jungle Pussy or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
It was very Tarantino-esque, and then when she's talking, she gets cut off by a big bang. Oh my god, a guy on the ground, Perfidia shot him, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna like this film, because this is the kind of stuff that I didn't know the movie was going to do, and it made it work for
But
me.
it would have to do stuff like that because
Yeah,
otherwise you are completely, you are picking like a side in this, and it's probably like where you should be more nuanced in the way you'd present something like this. Um,
absolutely. I mean,
yeah,
it makes fun
so
of
that,
his organization the whole time, I think. It doesn't really, but yeah, like I agree
but
that the
the
ending kind of
final
like
message,
leans
is
into
that they're
this.
good though, Tommy.
No, the final message I think is that, it's just one battle after another. They will keep on fighting for what they think is right. And she has that kind of, fire in her, just like her mother. And maybe it's up to her to make that fire into something more constructive and good. And we don't know, and we don't get to see it, but that fire is there. And it's a fire that is not necessarily destructive, in my opinion. Like, it's not implied that she's going there to fucking bomb something or fucking kill someone, but she's going there to show up. Like, we are seeing strikes and revolts all over the world right now for very good reasons. And I think, like, people are waking up to the fact that you can and should protest the government when it does something that you don't agree with. And I think, the movie is just like very gently saying, hey, like, you have power, and this person has power, and if she wants to protest or go against something, it's her right as a citizen of the world to do something about it. I don't know, like, I want to be uh kind of like, I want to give PTA the benefit of the doubt that he's not saying, oh, go out and burn stuff. He's just saying, you have power, and fight for what's right. And I don't know, just
Yeah, for sure, and like I said, it does. That's why the ending kind of did take me by surprise. That the basically Willow goes in the same direction as the mother, because
yeah.
it kind of majority of the film before that has kind of been like slating her actions. So yeah, I just thought it was a bit of a weird sort of way to wrap up the film. And I tell you what,
I
it almost lost me when was it Perfidia? Did you say it was?
Perfidia,
Perfidia,
yeah.
when she was holding that like LMG and just like firing or like using her pregnant belly to like support the barrel of the gun.
That was the scene, though. Like, it tells you everything about how she feels in that moment. I thought, like, even though she's pregnant, she's heavily pregnant with a
Yeah.
baby.
It was
She's doing this
DiCaprio
kind of
who
stuff.
kind of saved that though, because it cuts away from her, and you're like, okay, is this what the movie's going to be about? We're going to see her now, heavily pregnant, running around bombing some facilities or whatever. But DiCaprio he says one line. He's like, she doesn't even realize that she's pregnant, and she shouldn't be acting
Yeah,
like this. And it is like, yeah, okay, cool. Where you're calling out her for being an irresponsible mother because she's on this like massive self-destructive path. So. But yeah, the film
yeah.
does realize that, which is good.
Yeah, no, I think it's a smart movie, and it's trying to portray this stuff in a nuanced way, even though the way it's portraying them is very satirical and very heightened and exaggerated.
Yeah, so what would you give this one out of 10?
I really, really loved this. And the second time I watched it, I loved it even more. It's a beautiful expression of anti-authoritarianism, and even though it falters in a few places, I thought all the performances were great. And as we mentioned, the technical aspect, like the cinematography, the music, it's just pristine. It's just beautiful to look at. And it's incredibly funny. And Sean Penn's in particular, we didn't mention this, but you said the performance didn't work for you, but I found him so good because it was funny but also intimidating. It's pathetic. It's just a great villain. I thought it was pretty unique. So I will give One Battle After Another a solid 8.5 out of 10.
There you go. Iconic, in his own words.
Yeah, what about you?
I would probably give it like maybe a 6.5.
All right.
I thought, yeah, obviously technically amazing. Didn't love the story. There was like a chunk, for me, too long as well, for what it was trying to do. But there was a chunk in the middle that I did really enjoy, for like a sustained hour or so. And like some good characters in it. But overall, I think, yeah, I don't know, because my expectations were like a bit skewed because of how amazing people are saying this film is, and people saying masterpiece of the year. For me, I think I've seen way better films this year in Bring Her Back and Weapons, and just even more recently in Together. I thought they all were better and more succinct in what they were trying to say and do as a story. But this one was still a good time.
Go watch it if you haven't, and let us know your thoughts.
Nice.